We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Vav Amud Aleph in Meseches Sukkah. This is Sukkah Daf 56a. On the previous summit, the Gemara had asked, how do we know that all the Kohanim are equal in dividing up the Lechem Aponim on the Regel, on the holiday? And the Gemara says, Talmud Lomer, the Pasuk says, Chelek kechelek yochelu. It says, portion by portion they were going to eat. And we darshan kechelek avoda kach chelek achila. The same way that you divide up the work, so too you divide up the eating. In other words, if all the Kohanim are equally participating in the avoda of the regel, so too they will equally participate in the eating of the karbanos. Umay achila, but what particular eating are we talking about? Ilema karbanos, if we're talking about the regular karbanos, meaning not the lechem aponim, but the various karbanos that are brought for the regel, mehasam nafka, that's already learned from the following pasuk. It says, La kohen hamakriv osa lo siyeh. The kohen who offers the carbon is the one who gets to partake from the carbon. Elo lechem aponim. Rather, it must be, it's referring to the lechem aponim. Rashi over here says, Talmud Lomer chelek kechelek basrei du'ukra de'le'el ksiv du'ukma b'regel. This pasuk is written right after the other pasuk from earlier, which is talking about the regel. Chelek achila shavet b'chulam kechelek avoda. They're equal in achila, just like they are in avoda, as we said before. Umay achila tzarich lashmin. And what achila are we talking about? Ilema achila de karbonos desirei chatos v'chazav v'shok. If we're talking about again the karbonos, like the animal karbonos, the various parts of the animal that are eaten, mehasam nafka lekoyin hamakriv osa misha ovda ochel. We already said the one who does the avoda with the carbon eats it. V'kevan desrabi lavoda pshita demechel nami achli. Once he's doing avoda, it's obvious he eats it. Elo lechem aponim. Rather, it must be the lechem aponim. It's tarich l'rabuya. That's what we're including. She'ein bo shum avodas lechem. There is no avodas lechem. Shekvar nasas avodaso mishav v'shaver. The avoda was already taken care of from the week before. The lechem aponim was already set up the week before. Now they're partaking from it. And again, that's going to go to everybody, to all the various kohanim who are on shift on the regel. And the Gemara continues, Yochel I might think af bechovos habos shalom machmas haregel. What about the obligations, meaning the karbanos that are brought not due to the regel, but they happen to be brought on the regel? Maybe those get divided up as well. Talmud Lomer, the pasuk says, Levad mimkarav al ha'avos, except for that which is apportioned again by the various shifts, which means as follows: Ma mochru avos zelozeh, what the avos, meaning what the shifts of kohanim sold to one another. Ani b'shabati ve'ata b'shabbatcha, I get my Shabbos, you get your Shabbos. In other words, that which was divided up, and it is one particular family who is on shift over the regel, they're going to get those karbanos that are shalom machmas haregel. As Rashi over here says, Talmud Lomer levad mimkarav chutz mima shemachru avos zelozeh, except that deal which was made between the various families of kohanim. What do they do? They made a condition. The whole idea was everybody is going to serve on a particular Shabbos, and again, whoever's Shabbos it is, whoever's week it is going to get these karbanos that are boim shalom machmas haregel. Ani b'shabbati ve'ata b'shabbatcha. I'm on my Shabbos, you're on your Shabbos. Unadarim unadavos for karbanos sibur de'isnu b'shar yemos hashana. Meaning anything that's brought during the whole year, that is going to go by shift. Va'arehen lemishmar hamishamish. It goes to the particular mishmar. Lesnu b'chlal haregel shlu yushaven ben el lemishmar shaba'oso shavua. Yukav b'shar yemos hashana is treated like all year, whichever mishmar is this particular week. Hilkach ha-karchach lo israva mechelek kechelek yochelu ela mimash musei dekra davar she'ein bo elo achila v'hainu lechem aponim. Now that we've excluded the various other karbanos, what are we talking about when we say chelek kechelek yochelu? Again, that's talking about lechem aponim. It's something where there is no avoda. All there is achila. The achila is be'avol avoda less be. There's no avoda to do with the lechem aponim, because again, that was done the previous week. There's only achila, and again, that will be divided up among all the kohanim. The Gemara continues at the two dots, quoting the Mishnah Batzer Somer Lo Helech V'chulu. Again, on Shavuos, they're going to divide up not only the lechem aponim, they also divide up the shtei halechem. The Gemara says, Itzmar, we have the following machlokas amorim. Rav Amar Sukkah v'yachar kach zman. Rav says when you make the bracha, you first make the bracha on the sukkah, and then you make shechiyanu. Rashi over here says, Mishalo birach shechiyanu basiyasa, meaning if you didn't make shechiyanu when you made the sukkah, shahaisa asuya v'omeres, let's say it was already made. We said earlier that when you go into the sukkah to sit in the sukkah, you make two brachas. Sukkah is man, you're going to make a leishe basukah, and you also make shechiyanu. V'yamarav sukkah lema bereisha v'hadar zman. So that's what Rav is saying over here. First you say the bracha of leishe basukah, then you say shechiyanu. Rav bar Brachana Amar Zman v'yachar kach sukkah. Rav bar Brachana disagrees. He says you say the bracha of shechiyanu first, then you say the bracha of leishe basukah. Rav Amar Sukkah v'yachar kach zman. Rav says first you say leishe basukah chiyuva diyoma adif, because the chiyuv of the day is more important. It goes first. Rav bar Brachana Amar Zman v'yachar kach sukkah. Rav bar Brachana says first you say shechiyanu. Tadir v'sheno tadir kodem, because shechiyanu is a more frequently said bracha, therefore it should go first. Gemara says, Lema Rav, Rav bar Barchana, b'pluksa de Beishamai, Beisil kamiflagi. Let us say that Rav and Rav bar Barchana are arguing in the following machlokas that we have between Beishamai and Beis Hillel. The Gemara says, the Torah Rabbanan, that the rabbis taught, Devarim shebein Beishamai or Beis Hillel b'suuda. The following machlokas exists between Beishamai and Beis Hillel, how we conduct ourselves at a meal. Beishamai Omer Beishamai say, Mevorech al hayom, v'achar kach mevorech al hayayin. When you're making Kiddush, first you make the bracha on the day, and then, meaning the Kiddush of the day, the Kiddush hayom, and then you make the Borei Priagafen on the wine. Well, Beis Hillel Omer, Beis Hillel say, no, you do it like we do it. Mevorech al hayayin. First you make a bracha on the wine, v'achar kach mevorech al hayom, and then you make the Kiddush hayom, you make the bracha on the day. Beishamai Omer mevorech al hayom, v'achar kach mevorech al hayayin. Beishamai say, first you do it on the day. Why? Shahayom gorim liyayin sheyavu. It's the day that causes the wine that it should be here. As Rashi over here says, Shahayom gorim liyayin sheyavu, shimlomim ne kiddush lo yanizkak lakos lefnei suda. If not for the fact you're making kiddush, you wouldn't need to have a cup of wine before the meal. The whole reason you have the wine is because the day is causing us to bring the wine. Furthermore, uchvar kiddush hayom v'adayin yayin lo ba. The day comes, the sanctification of the day comes on its own. Immediately when it gets dark, it's Shabbos. You don't even have the wine yet in front of you. So therefore, again, the bracha on the yom should be first. First, you make a bracha on the wine, then you make a bracha on the yom, on the day of Shabbos. Because what's causing us to say this whole kiddush? We're only saying kiddush because we have wine. As Rashi over here says, Shim lo haya lo yayin. If he didn't have wine, lo haya makadosh bichdi. He's not going to make kiddush with nothing. You could say the same argument. You're making kiddush on bread. Makdim birchas hapas mehaitami. You'd also say the bracha on bread first for that reason. Shapas b'makom yayin. The bread is simply a replacement of the wine. It's possible to make kiddush on bread. It's possible to make kiddush on wine. But whatever the case may be, the point is, Beis Hillel is saying you should certainly make it on the wine first or the bread first because that's causing us to say the kiddush. Davar acher, Beis Hillel now gives another explanation. Birchas hayayin tadira. Birchas hayayin is a frequent bracha we often make Borei Priagafen. Ubirchas hayom eina tadira. The bracha we say on the day is not as common. So tadir v'sheino tadir kodem. You say the more frequent bracha, and if you have a choice between the frequent and the not frequent, you say the frequent bracha first. So the Gemara says very simply, Lema Rav Damar Beis Shammai, v'Rav bar Barchana Damar Beis Hillel. Let us say that Rav follows the opinion of Beis Shammai, and Rav bar Barchana follows the opinion of Beis Hillel. In other words, Rav who says you say the bracha on Sukkah first. So why is it that you're saying the bracha on Sukkah first? Exactly for this reason. Rav follows Beis Shammai. He doesn't say tadir v'sheino tadir kodem. And Rav bar Barchana, who says that you should say the bracha of Shechianu first, follows Beis Hillel, tadir v'sheino tadir kodem. So the Gemara says, no, Amar Lach Rav can say back to you, Ano damri afilu leBeis Hillel. My opinion can follow even according to the opinion of Beis Hillel. Adkan lo kamri Beis Hillel hasam ela shahayayin gorim l'kedusha sheteyamer. Beis Hillel said what they say because there was an additional reason there. The wine is causing you to say the kiddush, so of course the wine goes first. Aval but over here, Ilav Zman, if not for the time of the year it was, if not for what time it is, if not for the holiday, Mi lo amrin on Sukkah, would we not be saying the bracha on Sukkah? In other words, you say a bracha leisha b'Sukkah whether you're saying Shachianu or not. You say a bracha leisha b'Sukkah the entire Sukkahs. So therefore, it makes sense that the bracha of Sukkah should go first. You don't have the same svara that you have in the case of Shabbos making Kiddush, where the wine is causing the Kiddush, therefore wine goes first. Rabbi bar Barchana Amarlach, and Rabbi bar Barchana can say to you the opposite also. I can follow all opinions, even Beis Shammai. Like we said, Beis Shammai say over there that you say the Birchas Hayom first because it's the Yom which causes us to have the wine in the first place. We wouldn't bring wine if it wasn't Shabbos. But over here, Ilav Sukkah again. If not for the Sukkah, Milo Amrinan Zman, would we not say Zman? Of course we would. If a person wasn't sitting in the Sukkah, they would still say Shachiyanu, as Rashi over here says. Ilav Yeshiva Sukkah, Milo Amrinan Zman, Kegon Holchei Drachim. Let's say, for example, you're traveling to Petur Min HaSukkah, you're Pater from Sukkah, Omrim Zman, you still say Zman B'Shvil HaMoed, because it's a holiday. Kemo B'Sharagolim, you do this on all holidays. So again, the logic doesn't necessarily connect. The two cases are not necessarily related. And so the Gemara says, Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah, Batseres and Shavuos, Omer lo helech matzah helech chametz. Like we just quoted before the Mishnah, and Shavuos, they divide up the matzah among all the Kohanim, meaning they divide up the lechem aponim, and they also divide up the chametz, meaning the shtei halechem, which is unique to Shavuos. So it seems that they're dividing up the matzah first. But over here, the chametz ikr. For sure, the chametz is the ikr. That's the chovas hayom. The shtei alechem is the main carbon, so to speak, of the day. Matzah tafel, and matzah is just tafel, as Rashi over here says. Matzah tafel shushal shabbos shavra. That doesn't even belong to right now. That's from last week's. That's last week's matzah. The katani the palagi matzah bereisha. When which one's going first? Still, even though the matzah is the tafel, it is secondary. It goes first. Alma tadirad, if you see clearly from our Mishnah, tadir v'sheino tadir, what comes first? The tadir kodem. That's exactly what we're saying. V'hacha de chametz ikru matzah tafel v'katani helech matzah v'helech chametz. Right over here it says that you do the matzah first, even though the matzah is tafel. Apparently we do say tadir kodem. So the Gemara says tiyufta de Rav. That seems to be a refutation of Rav's opinion. Because again, Rav said that the bracha of leishib asukah went first, but he should say shechianu goes first if tadir kodem. So the Gemara says, Amar lach Rav Tanoihi. Rav says, actually, it's a machlokas Tanaim. You're correct. The Mishnah seems to be against my opinion, but there's another brisa. The Tanya we learned in a brisa, Heilach matzah, heilach chametz. The first opinion is Heilach matzah, heilach chametz. The matzah comes first. Abba Shaul over, but Abba Shaul says, no, it's the opposite. Heilach chametz, heilach matzah. First comes the chametz. Again, like we said, the chametz is the yikr. So you see a machlokas Tanoim on this very issue. And the Gemara continues, Darish Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda, Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda Darshan lo kedivrei Rav, not like Rav, the Amar Sukkah v'yachar kach zman, who says that first you say leisha basukah and then you say shechiyanu. Elazman v'yachar kach sukkah. Rather, the proper order is first say shechiyanu, then you say leisha basukah. But Rav Sheish breder Ravidi Amar Sukkah v'yachar kach zman. Rav Sheish breder Ravidi says first you say leisha basukah, then you say shechiyanu. The ilchasa and the halacha is sukkah v'yachar kach zman. First you say leisha basukah, and then you say shechiyanu. And the Gemara continues that the two dots, quoting the Mishnah, Mishmar shezmanu kavua, the Mishmar again that's on shift over the holiday, the one that's supposed to be on shift. So they bring all the karbanos, they get all the karbanos that are not machmas haregel, ushar karbanos sibor. The Mishnah said they also get all the other karbanos sibor. So the Gemara says, le'suyemai, what does that line come to include? What other karbanos sibor are there that are not being divided up among all the shifts, but are just going on to the shift that is on this particular week? And the Gemara says, la'suye par helam davar shel tzibor. It comes to include the bull offering that's brought, let's say the entire community does a sin mistakenly. U'se'ire avodas kochavim. And also the goats that are brought for avodah zarah, for the avera of worshipping avodah zarah. Rashi over here says, par helam davar shel tzibor im iro behen beregel. In other words, the point is, let's say on the regel, this actually happened. She'avru avera b'horas bezdin. Bezdin issued a ruling mistakenly. So then in this case, they're bringing this parhalam davar shel tzibor, that's going to go to the mishmar that is on shift. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, again quoting the Mishnah, v'hu makriv es hakol, he brings all of the karbonos. Again, the same basic idea, seems to be including some other kinds of karbonos that are going to the mishmar that is on shift. La'suye mai, what does that come to include? The Gemara says, la'suye kayetz hamizbeach. It's to include the karbonos that are brought. Let's say you have a situation where the mizbeach was inactive. They finished all the karbonos from the day, so they're supposed to bring carbon olos. The mizbeach is not supposed to be inactive. It's not supposed to be bottle. And again, those also are going to be brought by the mishmar that is on shift that particular week. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Yom Tov hasamach l'Shabbos. Let's say Yom Tov falls out right next to Shabbos, bein milfaneh, bein la'achareh. Either before, meaning Shabbos again might fall out right before Yom Tov, or Shabbos might fall out right after Yom Tov. In both of these scenarios, hayukala mishmaro Shabbos bechilak lechem aponim. And that Shabbos, even though it's not Shabbos of Yom Tov, still, since everyone is forced to be there, you can't travel if Shabbos falls out right next to Yom Tov. Therefore, all the mishmars are forced to be there, and they all get to divide equally the lechem aponim. Cholios yom echad lahafsik bein time. Now, what happens if one day is between Shabbos and Yom Tov? You have a situation where, let's say, Yom Tov falls out on Monday, so Sunday is in between. You have Shabbos and then Sunday in between, so you could have traveled in on Sunday. So in that case, mishmor shezmano kavui hayanotel eser chalos. The mishmor that is on shift that Shabbos, they get to take 10 of the 12 chalos. V'amisakev notel shtaim. And anybody else who's there, who again they didn't have to come so early, but they came, they can divide up two of the lechem aponim. They'll get 2 of them. And the Mishnah continues with Shariyamos Hashana. Now, during normal time of the year when it's not a holiday, Hanichnas notel sheish v'hayotze notel sheish. The incoming mishmor, they get six loaves, and the outgoing mishmor, they get 6 loaves. They divide it equally. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Hanichnas notel sheva. The incoming actually gets 7. V'hayotze notel chamish, and the outgoing they get 5. And the Mishnah says, Hanichnasen cholken b'tzafon. The incoming mishmor, they divide up the bread in the north area. V'hayotzen b'darim, and those who are outgoing, they divide up in the southern area. Bilga is the name of a family of Kohanim, of Mishmor of Kohanim. Liolam cholekas b'darim, they would always divide up in the south. V'tabata kavua, their ring was set. v'chalona stuma, and their window was sealed. We'll take a look at a few Rashis over here. Hanichnas notel sheva mefarish b'gemara. The Gemara will explain shamishmaros mischalfos b'Shabbos zu aved shachris v'zu aved arvis. We're going to say that the mishmars would switch on Shabbos. So the one mishmar would serve in the morning, and then the new mishmar would go ahead and serve in the evening. Kedamina b'gemara b'braisa. That's going to be explained in the Gemara in the Braisa. Hanichnasim cholkin beinehem b'tzafon. As a magiel cholkin kedamina b'gemara kadei sheyiru hanichnasin shahat tzafon ikr. The people who are incoming, they should see that the north is the ikr. It's in the northern area. That's where you shech the kachei kachim in the azara. So therefore, we give the incoming mishmor the more chashava area. The outgoing, so they'll go in the southern part of the azara. That way, it's clear that they're leaving. Since they're outgoing, they go to the side of the azara that is not as important. Bilga Shem HaMishmar. Bilga again is the name of this mishmar, this shift of Kohanim. Leolam Cholekes B'Dram. They were always in the south. So again, it means they always got the area that was less important. Va'afilu kashin nechneses. Even when they were incoming, they divided in the south. K'nasru shekansuak and mefarsh b'gemara. The Gemara is going to explain this was a fine against them. V'tabato kavua, their ring was established, means to say chavdal tabos hayu ba'azar b'makom beis hamitzbachayim keneged esrim v'yarba mishmaros. There were 24 rings that corresponded to the 24 mishmaros that were set up in the azara. V'hayu nesunos ba'avnei ritzpa v'hatabas psucha mitzad echad v'hofcha l'malu machnes tzavar behem l'socha. You would put the neck of the animal in the ring. It was in order to assist in the shechita process. V'chozer v'hofech pischa l'socha ritzpa v'tabas shel bilga kavua ve'enan apeches. Now most of the rings they were able to flip, but this one you couldn't move it. Kadesha tishtamish b'shel achem. This was in order that basically it was useless. You had to use other ones. Uganayhula. This was something again. This was like a degradation for the family of Bilga. The idea was all the other ritzpas were able to be opened up in a way where they could be usable. This was not usable at all. V'chalona stum, and also the window of Bilga was closed. Chalonas hayu bebeis hachalifos beove kosle hatoyim shebetzvon shel eichel shesham gonzin asakineim. This was an area where they used to store their knives. Kedetanan b'Meseches Midos. That's what it says in the Mishnah in Meseches Midos. V'sasmu chalona shel Bilga. The one of Bilga that was sealed off, that was closed. And the Gemara says, "My milfanel, my milachareh." What does it mean in the Mishnah when it says Yom Tiv is either before or after Shabbos? Ilema lefaneha Yom Tiv Rishon. If you're going to say that lefaneha means to say that the first day of Yom Tiv is before Shabbos, meaning it's on Friday, and liachareh Yom Tiv Achron, and liachareh means to say that the last day of Yom Tiv is right before Shabbos, meaning it's Sunday, so that doesn't make any sense. Hainu Shabbos shebesoch hachag. That would be Shabbos in the middle of the holiday. Of course, that Shabbos they divide everything equally. That's obvious. Ela lefaneh Yom Tov Achron. Obviously, the way to read the Mishnah is lefaneh means the last day of Yom Tov is right before Shabbos. So Shabbos itself, the last day of Yom Tov is Friday, and then Shabbos is right after Yom Tov. And liachareh Yom Tov Rishon. And the word liachareh is going on Yom Tov Rishon. In other words, Shabbos comes first, and then you have Sunday is the first day of Yom Tov. So the idea is, again, as we said when we explained the Mishnah, the Mishmaros are forced to be there for Shabbos, even though those are not Shabbos of the holidays. My time, and what's the reason? Kevan dahani mekadmi v'hani miachri. Since again you have people coming early, people staying late. Tiknu Rabbanan Milsa. So the Rabbanan made an institution. They said, they decreed that everybody should get to eat it together. If they're all there anyways in the Beis Hamikdash, no one's able to travel. The Gemara continues that the two dots, quoting the Mishnah, Chol Yom Echad, if there's one day in between, again you have Shabbos, then a day in between, and then let's say on Monday starts the Yontiv, etc. We'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Nun Vav Amud Beis.